What is going on, you rogues, rebels, and renegades? Welcome to 2026. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a great 2025. We're going to do a bit of a rogue recap for you before we chat to Walker Tex all the way from Ireland. It's a great chat. Do not miss it. But how was your 2025, guys? I had a pretty fucking good one. Full disclosure, I did record a recap. That is never going to see the light of day. I thought it was too negative. I went on a bit of a rant, and I don't want to bring that energy into 2026. So we are being positive. We are going to be talking about the good things we've done, the good things we've seen, and the good things going forward. I had a great 2025 in the grand scheme of things. I got to tour with Four in the Strange Band, Coleman Williams, aka the great grandson of Hank Williams. What a great run of shows they were. I got to tour with Vinny Stigma from Agnostic Front as his project, The Outlaw Vinny Stigma. That was awesome. This was the year we had the full band, Mike West and the Missing Links. We did a bunch of festivals. We got to play some great shows with people. And we had a boss time. I also got a story published, which was nice. It came out in November. It is part of the If I Die Before I Wake series. This is volume 10. And it's Tales of Cryptid Chaos. I'm really proud of this book. I'm really proud of all the stories in it. They're all great. My story is about the Squonk, which is a cryptid from Pennsylvania. That's a little warty pig that cries all the time because it's so hideous. Obviously, I can relate. But I wrote a story called This Damned Town. It is in that book. But what have you rogues been up to? That's the important thing. Becky said it was a quiet gig year until December when they went to America. And then, holy shit, they saw Colter Wall, Cody Jinks, Sterling Drake, Dave Stammy, Brennan Scott Green, Mallory Eagle, and Cade Hoffman. And they saw Chris Aker in Chester along with Dylan Ale in York. And the best gig they said was Todd Daywait in London. They planned to see Zachary Lucky, Ags Connolly, Fred Eaglesmith, and Todd Daywait again. And Kazi Valaza was also good if you get a chance to see it. And her best album was Call to Wall, Memories and Empties, and Todd Daywait, Letters from the Road. Thank you so much for letting us know, Becky. Vonnie said it would be Sunny Sweeney. She saw it Retro in Manchester, along with her album The Rhinestone Requiem. Then they also went to America. They went to Nashville and saw Rhiannon Giddens at the Ryman. Holy shit, that would have been awesome. And then they saw Mary Heather Hickman at Bobby's Idol Hour. That sounds cool as well. Richard, he didn't get to go to many gigs, but he did love the albums Ramona and the Holy Smokes and Wade Forster. Paul went to a UK festival. He said it was amazing. The Ramblin' Roots review. It had the Rosleys, Ags Connolly, Dom Glynn and his Sunday Best, many, many more. Keep checking out that festival. And then Evil Nash 82 over on Instagram said Nick Shoulders' Refugee of Blues was his top album. So you guys have been listening and supporting great country music. That is awesome. It's interesting Tyler Childers didn't make the list of anyone. He brought out an interesting album. Luke Bell's posthumous album was also really cool. There's been a great year for country music, and I'm hoping to see what 2026 brings. But let's not get too deep onto this. That was the Rogue recap for 2025. How could we not talk about the shows we put on? We put Joel Adam Russell and Brandon Ridley on in March. We put Hannah Juanita on in Swansea with Josh Bettis in July. And they were the only two shows. We wanted to keep it simple. We wanted to keep it small. We did. We took a year off. We took some time to recover. And I think it's going to pay off because in March 18th of 2026, this year, we've got Ags Connolly and Susanna Clegg coming to the Swinging Arm, Birkenhead and Wirral. And that is what we're going to be focusing on. We're going to be focusing on the Wirral and the Northwest. We're not booking any more tours. I just can't get into the logistics and like the legalities of it all because this is all done out of love, guys. This is all done as a passion project. We don't sign any contracts. It's all handshakes and dreams. And we can't really run like that if we want to go forward because there's too much carrying on it, guys. If something goes wrong for an American artist over here, you know, that would be absolutely awful to leave them stranded if a gig doesn't go down as it should, if they don't get paid as they can. So it's just too much risk, and I don't want to be involved in something that has a level of risk that could potentially fuck an artist over, and I just don't want to leave that open for them because I think that would just be absolutely awful. So I'm going to do what I can control, and I don't want to be booking gigs and tours that I can't personally attend and oversee because if something goes wrong in London or Swansea or Newcastle or wherever we've booked something and I'm not there to help, then you know, I think that's just a bit fucked. So we're going to keep it small. We're going to be focusing on the Northwest. We're going to be focusing on Wirral and Birkenhead. And I'm going to try and bring some of the best country music I can to you guys. And that's all we can hope for, isn't it? But speaking of great country music, Walker Tex, we got to chat with from Ireland. He's a great dark country artist we found over on TikTok. He's a really good guy, really supportive of the community, really trying to build something. He's coming over to the UK for the first time in March. We get in February, sorry. We get into that. He's coming back over in March as well. Get into that as well. We get into social media creating, coming up with an actual plan as an artist before you start kind of getting out there. I think this is a really interesting chat for folks who want to maybe make a move but don't know how to make a move. So, without further ado, this is episode 76 of the Rogue Country Podcast with Mike West and Walker Tex. Yeah, man, thanks so much. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Busy, but you know the troubles that come with being an independent musician, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But
totally.
yeah, how have you been?
Yeah, good, man. So, we're 7 days into the new year. It's not been super terrible yet, so here's hoping it continues. But I was speaking to Ags Connolly last night, and he was just saying how like difficult 2025 was. He found, and like I'd been speaking to a few other people, kind of felt 2025 was a bit of a shithole, and and a few other people. Did you find last year difficult or different compared to like 2024 and what you're coming into now in 26?
I think it's kind of different for me and Wilson because we felt like we only really got motion once Wilson came on board.
Mm,
Oh, up to that point, I'd been very much looking at like how do we do marketing? What's our content look like? All that
yeah.
kind of side, the boring business side rather than the music creation
Mm,
side. And last year, that's what kind of got us down a little bit. But in all the effort we made last year, we're kicking off this year with a lot more hope, with a
yeah.
lot more bites in terms of like where we can do shows and where we can travel to. So I think it's definitely, I think I've avoided that side of it a lot
Mm,
last because of the effort that was put in. We kind
yeah.
of focused on what music we wanted to put out, what songs we wanted to focus on, and then the mix of the monotonous business side as well. So I do agree with Ags though. It's that element of it that really just kind of almost makes you second guess
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So it wasn't so much a slump for you guys as it was like a foundation building kind of thing.
Yeah, like that's why we're the exception. It was foundation building for sure.
Mm.
Um, and I think it has set us up the right way. Now speak to me in like 2, 3 months and I'll be like, we've hit that slump, dude.
Cool, man. So getting into like that foundation building thing, what was the initial conversations or what was the kind of change in tactics that you just started discussing last year? Because obviously you guys are playing alt country, dark country, which in and of itself is a niche. So did you decide to lean into that more heavily or, talk us through that?
We got really focused on what everyone gets focused on, the labels. Like,
Mm.
are you dark country? Are you outlaw? Are you just singer-songwriter? That's not country. We decided to like not let that come into it too
Yeah.
much and just if a song sounds good to us, then it's gonna go out. And I know that maybe kind of kicks us out of the outlaw or dark country camp at times, but I don't know. I'm into music holistically, so a good
Mm.
song is a good song. Um, but I think we did get very caught. There's one month in particular where we're like, this doesn't sound country enough. It doesn't sound outlaw enough, and would sit down and go over and over, and then ultimately you shelf that song because you get so worried about it. Um, but yeah, that's the process from my side. Like, how do you find that kind of way of working? Do you focus on a track and think it sounds like this right now? What do I add in to make
Yeah.
it sound like this, or do you
Mm.
let it flow organically?
I think it's got to be an organic thing. I think if you
Yeah.
start kind of, because I've thought about, do I want to write darker stuff than I do? Because again, you just want it to kind of come organically. You don't want to necessarily force it. And that's like the weird thing. I don't know if you find this as, a branded kind of dark country artist that like are not a lot of my songs are that fucking dark, really. And that's like a thing I really like worry about is like, I don't think I've mentioned the devil in a lot of songs. And it's
Yeah.
one of those things where it's like this these kind of like markers that you worry you aren't hitting, but then
Yeah.
what you are doing is still creating that kind of dark country or like whatever you want to call it, alt country kind of stuff. And I
Yeah.
think because TikTok, especially because I think TikTok's our main platforms, you have to lean into the niche that you're in. So you kind of call yourself dark country, even if like you've put out a love song or quite like a nice folky song, you're still going to be calling it dark country, kind of just
Yeah.
to make sure you hit those markers.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. I think these days, like some of our tracks these days have gotten like the lyrics are dark. It's
Hmm.
always about time ticking, you're dying
Yeah.
slowly. It's very bleak sort of subject matter. And then the other time, like Wilson will have the most upbeat piece of music that we're both collectively
Yeah.
working on. And I think it's a good contrast, you know, like a lot of the 90s kind of songs that people found commercially successful or those like earworm songs when you dig into them, man,
Yeah.
they're very depressing subject matters, but they stuck with us, you know. So I
Yeah.
think it's definitely something it's the style of the lyrics I think that are definitely forcing us into the darker side. We are very happy people outside of our
Yeah,
control
but
issues.
I think that's the interesting thing, especially about the kind of country music and definitely bluegrass, where the lyrics are so kind of horrific and dark, but they are put to upbeat, fast-paced melodies and things. And I think what I worry about with dark country is stylistically and genre-wise, it's meant to be really kind of like slowed down and it's got that stomp and it's got that type of thing.
Yeah.
While I think sometimes I'm like, is this dark enough? But lyrically and in kind of a historical sense of those kind of dark songs, it fits. But in modern kind of TikTok dark country sense, it doesn't, which is really
Yeah.
interesting because I collect like the Hillbilly in Hell records, and they
Mm.
are the darkest lyrics humanly possible, but it's all set to kind of really, really good country that's not that, what you think of
Yeah.
dark country as like that slow, dredgy, almost doom sound to it.
Yeah. I think that a lot of the darker ones we have, we do fall into that camp of it's very kind of slow. You know, you've got
Yeah.
your lazy slide guitar in there. If we're working with pedal steel player, you know, those stomps that are in there. There's elements that we love to kind of focus on and see does that fit. Last year, like the more I spoke to and connected with more people, some of them were like, you know, I'm more focused on the guitar, what the guitar's doing over there, and
Mm.
the one time they actually listen and deep dive into the lyrics are like, shit, man, that's pretty fucking dark. Like,
Yeah.
so everybody's got their thing that draws them to music. Some people listen to it as a whole. Some people only focus on the lyrics.
Mm.
Some people just in it for the guitar. It's
Mm.
a personal choice, but yeah, organic is the way to go. You just let the idea come, let it fall where it may, and you kind of you add your elements to it.
Yeah. No, totally. I think if I was trying to do like a concept record that was like to do the darkest shit possible, I'd probably try and write in that vein. But because
Yeah.
there was that concept, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a concept record that was like done by Chris Christopherson and Stephen King. And I've got the album somewhere, but for the life of me, I can't remember it. But it's like if that was the project, that's kind of what you think about. But for my kind of what I want to write, it doesn't kind of factor. And I also think, coming from like a live perspective, if you have like 10 slow, dark, drudgy songs, but
Yes.
they're all just going to blend into one, which is why I enjoy kind of like the fast paced ones and then slow it right and like create that kind of roller coaster for folks.
That's funny you said that's Wilson was here at the weekend. We were doing some recording and that came up. Obviously, the topic of how do we make the set list flow a
Yeah.
bit better rather than have like, you know, the outlaw songs, which for us are drop D and they may sound the same. The vocal melody might be different or there's a different solo element in there. So we are trying to like piece that up. Like,
Mm,
how do we think of it as a roller coaster. We want
yeah.
people to like kind of be dropped on their asses for those slower, oh, that's reality kicking in. And then we want to like liven things up with a more faster
Mm,
paced style track.
mm. Cool, man. So, kind of going, even further back from 2025, what was it that kind of made you pick up a guitar? And then What was the dark country alternative country artist that you realized were out there that made you kind of pivot or like be influenced by that sound?
So I'd been playing guitar on and off since I was a teenager, and I never thought about it in a like make a some form of career out of it until probably around like maybe 2019,
Mm.
2020. I got to get
The
serious about
perfect time to fucking start a music career.
exactly. If you're gonna do anything, do it while the world fucking shuts down, you know? So I was like, well, what I'll do, I'll cut my teeth, I'll do some covers and kind of get back into the swing of it. And then I started coming across like I came across Coulter Wall
Mm.
like in the earlier days and I was like, that's fucking cool, man. I love that style. And then I started to meet real dark folk kind of bands as well. Um, and that's what sparked it. And then from there started kind of looking back on the country influences I'd had kind of growing up, you know, like your Johnny Cash's, Merle
Mm.
Haggard's, like Williams, the usual candidates, and started like focusing on that. That's a cool kind of sound to see what I could do something with, and then the more I thought about it as well, like I was big into like most people of our generation, you know, I was big into heavy metal and
Mm.
like punk bands when I was younger. So when I thought back to some of the Metallica tracks that I love, you know, like controversial as it may sound, Unforgiven 2 from
Mm.
Reload has a lot of kind of slide guitar in it, you
Yeah.
know, and then look at the 80s hair metal ballads, there's a big country element in there as well. And I've always had that soft spot for it. So it kind of shaped what I envisioned it would sound like
Mm.
fast forward to today. But it was yeah, a lot of kind of inspiration from the more darker players. White Buffalo was another big one.
Mm.
You can tell I binge watched Sons of Anarchy and then discovered White Buffalo all of a
Yep.
sudden. So I deep dived into that. Sean James is one I'd listened to for years, who I think is just when we talk about genre bending, I think he falls into a lot of different camps, and the
Mm.
advice he gives at the minute is just like follow what you want to do, what's in
Yep.
your heart. A good is a good song, and I love hearing other artists, bigger artists, kind of give that advice as well. You know,
Mm. Are you going to see his? I think he's touring in February, isn't he?
he is playing in Dublin, which is the closest one to me. I think it is. It's either February or April.
Mm.
Uh, but there's a couple of good acts coming over on the Irish side this year, and then me and Wilson want to get over. Like we're both based in Ireland at the moment, but we're trying to do a lot more in the UK. We do some bits in France with a dark folk band called Jarl. They're
Mm.
exceptional. They're going to be playing with us real soon. Um, but yeah, more gigs is kind of one of my goals for this year, not
Yeah.
just for me personally, but getting to see more acts as well.
Cool, man. I am. I don't know if you know him. I'll drop his booking agent and or I'll send you his booking agent's email because you might be able to get on the fucking gig, man. I don't know if any support acts have been announced.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
think there's anything been announced. Like you know how it goes in terms of the background of the business. You
yeah.
know when an artist is going somewhere, and I find the UK looks like it's a lot more open, whereas here in Ireland there's like two promotion companies, like that's they just monopolize it. They've got a
Yeah.
lockdown. It's like scenario, and we me and Wilson do a lot of contact sharing and a lot of different conversations with musicians to just try and we're all here in the same boat together,
Yeah.
trying to help each other. So yeah, any advice, help would be much appreciated.
Yeah. Cool, man. Because like my entire thing I owe to Sean James, um, which is crazy how well he's doing now because like he was my first tour in 2017. He was the first guest on this podcast. So I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
seeing him again when he's back in Manchester. But phenomenal fucking artist, and I think his sound. It's nice to hear another artist who hear or like hear his stuff was kind of influential on that because his like I saw an Instagram story today where someone was marketing him as country, and I'd never necessarily call him country, but because he weaves so much in between genres and things, I think it's a really interesting kind of thing. And he said himself he's not a country artist, like dark folk. into
Yeah,
rock would probably be his most accurate thing nowadays, but it's hard to pin down.
that's the thing. Like that's why I love the way he runs his ship. It's never putting anything into that box. It's whatever you hear is whatever you want to define it as, and I
Yeah.
love that kind of sentiment when it comes to good music.
Hmm. Yeah, so picked up a guitar, discovered that. And when did you meet Wilson? Is it?
Me and Wilson have known each other since we were kids. So I grew up in I went to high school in Northern Ireland. So the major party days, me and Wilson were very heavily hanging out with each other. He was in a lot of southern rock blues bands at the time, and I was just metal, emo, hardcore kind of style
Mm,
kid. But we were always hanging out, and then he was starting to put out more kind of videos on Instagram, and I was like, dude, you got to come down. We'll have a jam, and like, let's see what we can do here. He enjoyed some of the stuff we were working on,
mm.
and it just kind of happened. Where we're like, let's ride this train and see where it takes us.
Cool, man. And where do you think he kind of amplifies or complements your playing? Because it's a really like cool sound that you guys have got going on.
I think Wilson bringing in like the more southern blues style solos and that way of playing. I think it just like I don't know. There's an element there. It adds to someone for like. I still like to have that distortion, that overdrive there. So for the studio stuff we do, when he's around and we're doing that, it sounds exceptional. But he's able to like the cover we done for RJ
Mm.
Box. He was able to just make that darker, and it was literally just he learned the banjo chords that day, and when he done he added the piano in, like we were like, this is the realm where we want to be for this particular cover. Like even the other night, like he picked up the mandolin, and we've got that coming into music. Like Wilson
Nice.
will play with anything with strings, and he's an exceptional player. Whereas I'm more the rhythm kind, so I come up with a kind of the basis of what I think will be a
Mm.
cool couple of chords, and he's bringing that extra melody element with whether it's just background lead or a ripping solo. He'll bring that to it, and it brings it alive, and I think it helps and it inspires me to get more higher with the vocals as well because
Mm.
I was doing just everything was very low and that's the way I was singing for a while. Whereas now I'm starting to find I don't think you ever find your voice, but you continuously
Yeah.
improve it and find
No,
new
totally.
ways to kind of sing something. So I think he brings a lot of that out in me. And it just works for us, I guess. It's just nice to like there's no idea not on the table
Yeah.
with there's no egos because there's only two of us. Like if there was more folks, then yeah, that's where you get into those
Yeah.
debates and stuff. It works.
Sick, man. And obviously, you said you saw some of his stuff on Instagram when you were jamming, and I think you're one of the few artists that does like really clean, great looking like kind of videos on social media and TikTok, especially. Was that kind of again a plan going in to be like, we're gonna create like the content around these songs and make it look a certain way? Because I think people sometimes get bogged down and they think they need like a 4K camera or they need this or that, when it's like you really just need the consistency and the willingness to do it.
Yeah, like I'd agree with that. I think the consistency is key to just keep putting out content as boring and like a part of the process as it may be. Like I was always big on film production value and those elements. So when I was younger, like I wanted to be a camera operator,
Hmm.
and that's all I wanted to do. So I've always been into photography and the filmmaking side of things. So I think in terms of the content we put out, we love making live videos. Like I've got a bunch of different cameras I collected over the years. I'm into editing, like color grading, get very nerdy with it at times. But what's lacking because of all that is I have no sound engineering like capabilities at all. So we can either have a really good visual and I'll bring our friend Copper Kelly in to like kind of where's the mic placement go? And then our other kind of with we call him the silent member of the band, that's Rolf Conrad. He produces a lot of our stuff and he's
Hmm.
based in Georgia in the States. Anytime you hear a bass, drums, or a Rhodes organ, that's him
Hmm.
doing that in the
Nice.
background. he does backing vocals as well. So for more of those studio stuff, but yeah, on the video front, I I agree. You don't need to do all that. It's my personal preference that I
Mm.
like to have something packaged that way. Like when we done Ashes to Ashes, that was our homage to like the Sergio Leone
Mm.
spaghetti western. So I would bring in these free from copyright mind images and kind of put the music to that. So doing content like that was pretty cool as well. But yeah, for anyone that's kind of getting started, like a 10 quid ring light from
Yep.
wherever and a good mobile phone camera, and you're already ahead of the game.
Yeah, I think that's the thing because yours looks really fucking like clean and professional, and you can tell that there's like an intent and a skill there. And I think people can sometimes see that and think it's, $1 billion production and you need to do X or Y, but you're showing kind of an independent musician can do that as long as you kind of really give a fuck. And that's what I really like from your socials is you can just tell you give a fuck. Obviously, you feel inspired by film, you've got that kind of angle. So I think it's a really cool thing that, yeah, because, a lot of artists despise the word content and despise the word social media strategy, and but in
Yeah.
this day and age that's something you have to kind of be really truly aware of.
Yeah. That's the downside as well. Like, if the content is so crisp and clean, from other musicians looking in, like I don't I don't ever see it as competitive landscape.
No.
Every independent musician is fighting the same battle. We're all at different stages and we're all doing it the way we want to do it. I don't believe there's ever a right or wrong. It's
No.
just our preference, but it does bring that certain element of folks thinking, well, they're already there. I'm like,
Mm.
nobody's there. We're all trying to get there and we don't
Yeah.
know where there is, but
Yeah.
that's just the way it comes across.
Mm. Yeah, man, we're singing Dog Country. The only there is another fucking pub. We aren't like gonna be selling out Wembley Stadium anytime soon. There's a fucking ceiling to this.
That's the thing, like if I can yeah, if I can make it a full-time kind of day job and pay the bills, then I'm happy doing it. But yeah, the aspiration is never to play those big arenas. Don't get me wrong. If anyone offers,
Yeah.
we'll do our best. We'll go there with the guitar and try and blow whatever roofs on the place off. But yeah, it's not like in a specific goal
No.
for us to do that.
Yeah. Well, moving on to that, obviously we've got the UK tour coming up. Uh, is Wilson coming over with you for those?
Yeah, so going forward, I think when we set up, I think Wilson, there was only one show, like in terms of last year, Wilson wasn't, or maybe it was the year before, but Wilson's been consistently there. So we're at a point now where we want this to be the kind of inaugural, I call it a tour. It's such a small tour, but everyone else is doing it, so we're gonna
Yeah.
call it yeah, Wilson's going to be there. He's going to be using pedal boards, so there's a bit of an electric element
Mm.
coming into this for the first time as well. It's not just ourselves and the acoustic guitars, so it's going to be a nice little tester to see how that works and flows. We have a bunch of new songs
Mm.
on the set list that kind of some aren't even released yet that we're going to be testing out as well. So we're excited to get over to the UK and start seeing some traction.
Mm. Go on. What cities, if you know off the top of your head? Because I know you're doing Bradford. Is that with Chris
Yeah,
Dover and?
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be a good friend of mine, Keaton Flannery,
Yeah.
introduced me to Chris Dover, and yeah, I'd had a chat with Chris, and he's like, "Let's get you over." So that was the first one that fell into place. So I'm really excited to meet Chris and see what that's all about. And then we're gonna go to Wales. We're playing a place called the Green Rooms. Um, so yeah, I think we've got two support acts, Mark Watkins Price and Our Mother the Mountain.
Oh yeah.
They're going to be playing tonight as well, which is pretty cool. And then we're heading down to Kent for Doghouse Micro Pub, which is this really cool vinyl bar. So we're going to go there and have some fun. Um, and if we can add anything else on after the 8th, we'll do it in a heartbeat.
Cool, man. How are you Are you getting trains, or have you got a car, or how are you traveling around
So
for the UK?
we're gonna get the ferry from Dublin and go across because we've got like we kick it all off really with the show in Waylands in Dublin on the 28th of January.
Mm.
And from there, we're just going to make our way over to the UK. So it will be a lot of driving, but we've kept that we're bringing with us. So it just makes sense.
Cool, man.
You know, turns are expensive no matter whether you're on a label, whether you're not on a label. It's a fucking drain on cash. So trying to do it as cheaply as possible. But yeah, so you'll see us on the motorway in a little duster, two 6 foot dudes with a packed out Daisy duster. Give us a wave.
And is this kind of because I know what you mean when you're like, is it a tour? Because it's like not that many dates, but I've seen
Yeah.
motherfuckers say like 3 dates in 5 months is a tour. So
Yeah, yeah,
this is a tour. This is like the UK, and a lot of people
yeah,
say UK tour and only hit England, and you're doing Wales, so you've got that thrown in there.
yeah. And
Cool.
kicking it off in Ireland, we
Yeah.
we decided to tie in the international kind of.
Of course, international artists, man. That's what you got to sell it as. But is this kind of the first, obviously, like UK tour? But this is this like the first kind of consecutive dates you'll have done as a duo and
Yeah,
stuff. Have you done any
yeah,
prep in terms of just like because touring can just be a massive head fuck in terms of preps and
yeah.
locations and scheduling and stuff.
So yeah, like we're older dudes, so we're half smart about it. So we're trying to plan our routes and what's like, you gotta think of gas prices and all
Yeah.
that sort of nonsense. So we've tried to plan it out as best we can. And then you know yourself from the get-go when you're sending those emails out to potential venues, you kind of jump at the chance and
Yeah.
try and hope it falls into place. So this seems to be not too bad, like Bradford through Wales and then over to Kent. It's not the worst.
No.
But it's worked out that way. In terms of the prep, it's just planning the route, planning how we're getting there, what kit we're taking.
Mm.
Like, it'll be like travel lodges, hostels, we got to do it very, very lean.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the first tour I did, there was a really good deal. I don't know if it exists still in London, where if you played the hostel, you got to stay there for free.
There's a
Which was
lot
like,
more. Yeah, like a lot more. I find that with the UK, there's a lot more of that kind of thing being offered.
mm,
Similar with Europe as well, actually. The few gigs we've been fortunate enough to do over in France,
mm,
it's a really good kind of deal that they're offering, like they're big on, your drinks, your
yeah,
dinner, and they really treat you well. Scotland was kind of the same, like they really done as good when I was there back in February last year. In Ireland, it's just tough to break in. I don't
really,
know. Yeah, like I know, and Keenan I've watched Keenan break his balls for like so many years, and it's really good to see him getting traction. Like he got to support White Buffalo towards the end of last year, which was awesome. Um, but yeah, he'll confirm it's a grind over here for some reason.
mm. That's such because it's like I always kind of see because I've toured Europe a couple of times, and that to me to the UK is just the promised land. You get you kind of you bed and board, you get
Yeah,
food, you get decently paid, while the UK is kind of you scrape by on like a bare minimum. So to hear Ireland's kind of a step down, maybe from even the UK is like a weird thing. But I guess if it's a kind of a smaller place with a more tight knit community or something. But when I like
yeah.
going back to like Sean James and even Amigo the Devil, when they first played over there, they were tiny fucking rooms with hardly anyone there. And I think it does take that kind of traction to kind of get any eyes on you.
It's all about like it's classic kind of sales tactics. It's networking and building relationships. So like I've been speaking to more and more venues to see like, look, how do they actually take in musicians?
Mm,
What do they? And even when like over here, you kind of almost, and it happens in the UK and Europe as well. You kind of become your own booker. So
yeah.
you're renting out the venue with the hope of recouping, and that's the way we do Whelan's. Whelan's they have a nice little offer going where it's a good enough rate to like rent out
Mm,
part of it. part of their place. Um, and they're nice about it in terms of how they promote us and stuff. It's just finding more of those. The Grand Social is another one I'd love to get into in Dublin. They're very friendly. It's just finding these
Yeah.
places. But yeah, again, like not being like an Irish native as well, like every country's got their, we're gonna do it's UK independent artist or it's
Yeah.
Irish independent artist. Because we don't fit into any of those kind of camps either.
Mm.
Sometimes we kind of pushed back on, but again, like the effort we put in last year, we're getting a lot more traction in terms of like, your community radio and stuff. So
Mm.
all about just building it.
Yeah. Cool, man. So with kind of you've got the tour on the horizon for February, and you've got quite a prolific kind of output, which is cool because obviously you guys have your own kind of studio and production and stuff. So do you have like more music to be coming out as well before the tour or in this year?
Yeah, like we're hoping to do, we literally spent the weekend like in practice mode, but we did, our friend Copper Kelly actually recorded uh like a full live set in the studio, and we've got a bunch of videos that we kind of
Nice.
together as well as part of that. So I'm thinking maybe get that out before we jump on the tour. And we also have like a studio version of 6 feet that we're trying to get nailed fairly soon. I think we just got like drums and another few little bits to brush up on. Um, so it'd be good to get that out there. You know yourself, you gotta have something to tie into
Yeah.
like, why are you touring? Everybody needs to know the reason why,
Yeah.
you're doing it for love as well, but
Yeah.
look for that product or like market employ. Um, but yeah, this one's just it's the way the cards fell. We've
Mm.
got some coming out, and we're just happy to be going to the UK and getting out on the road and kicking off here in Ireland as well.
Yeah, man. Right on. It's like it's a good kind of first step and first kind of taste for it. Obviously, you can come back and do a bigger run next time, and that's just kind of what you have to do to kind of get in the
Yeah.
kind of trenches and get some traction going.
Yeah, like even through like the amount of people we reached out to looking for kind of space and if they can, accommodate us coming over and playing their venues, quite a lot already got back and everyone's been super kind and making recommendations, being like, well, we're booked up during those dates, but
Yeah.
check out this other place or have a look at these dates. So it's kind of nice to see that effort's paying off,
Yeah.
chasing people and emailing them as apologetic as I am for spamming y'all. It's it is the only way to do it. Everybody's trying to get everyone's attention.
Yeah.
So
It's really
we
hard,
gotta
man. I think like when you're new to it or when you're trying to break into a scene or break into an area, emails is the only way, and people do get a bit fucking disgruntled, and I'm guilty of it too because I get kind of inundated with people asking me to book them in places. And I don't have the time or budget to book everyone who comes in, but you just do get like inundated with messages. But what I try and do is kind of separate the good messages, which is sometimes a hard thing, and it's
yeah.
how you present yourself is really important. And if someone sends me a shitty message, it's not happening. But I
Oh yeah.
think it's a really like how you present yourself, how you send the emails, what you include in the emails is always such an important thing in getting those kind of first steps going. And people don't really realize that. I'll just get an Instagram message being like, "When are we gonna make this happen?" I'm like, "Who the fuck are you, bro?"
Yeah, I'm old school and I try and be as polite as I can about it. Like I don't have any ego or
Yeah.
anything. Like if it's a free show and someone and me and Wilson can like make it happen, we're gonna want to make it
Yeah.
happen. And we'll see does the relationship progress from there.
Yeah.
Um, but I agree, it's how those emails and how those DMs come across.
Mm.
Some folks, like I do see it with some bands where they're very cheeky, being like, "So I know you're playing there. What's the chances of us being on the support?" And
Yeah.
that's still polite enough. It's kind of that ballsy element, but still like, um, we play a very, I don't know, professional. We want to make sure
Yeah.
we're not coming across in a certain way, just assuming that we're the biggest and baddest because X, Y, and Z. We
Yeah.
tend not to go for that. We tend to ask like, how do you choose acts for your venue? Like,
Yeah.
would it suit this kind of music? could we potentially have a discussion? Like I'm old school. I'm one for like trying to get a phone number or trying to
Mm,
get like a face meeting with folks as well
yeah.
if they have time. And whether that's 5 minutes over a cup of coffee or
Mm,
jumping on a call, then I think that's the best way to do it. Like never be afraid to ask for help or ask
no,
what their process is because we're
no.
all learning.
Yeah, exactly. I remember I prefer email, but I remember when I was like in like I think it was like 2017, 2018. I was just starting out. I was phoning venues, and I phoned one venue, and he was like, "Well, I've never heard of you," and I was like, "Well, that's
Yeah,
kind of the
dear. Well,
fucking point, man." Like,
like that's how it's gonna be for a
yeah,
lot of different artists. That's why like there's a lot more venues. Like I don't know if they're opening up or rebranding, but there's a lot more in that country style, and it ranges from your wild feral brunches where they want the party stuff, like those dark kind of bars that
yeah,
want the good old fashioned. Um, so it's good to see them like coming alive a lot more, and it gives me and Wilson a bit of hope that we're going to find more and more venues throughout the year. Then there's festivals as
mm,
well, which was application process, but again, more than happy to throw the name out there and
yeah.
see what we could do.
No, totally, man. And I think that's like the main thing is you have to have that hope. You have to have that kind of perseverance, and coupled with professionalism, hopefully you'll be onto a fucking winner.
That's the thing. It's like totally about consistency, persistence, and done the right way. And you'll find people will get back to you. Like you mentioned there, like the venue didn't know your name. Guaranteed, if you emailed that motherfucker for 12 months, he's gonna know your name by the end of it.
Yeah,
He's gonna be like, "Oh, you're the guy. Yeah, yeah, of course. Okay, well, you know."
yeah,
So just
yeah,
depends what way you go about it.
yeah. I call it Shawshank, and do you know where you just sent a letter every day to the library place?
I love that analogy.
But cool, man. Let's wrap this up. But I really can't fucking wait to see you in February, man. Either I'll get to the Bradford show, or after we've hit stop on this, I might see about some free dates and see what we can do, or we can connect you with
Yeah.
anywhere else, man. But fuck yeah, thank you so much for making the time today.
No worries. Thanks for having me, man. Long time coming, and it's great to finally connect with you.
And that is the Rogue Country Podcast, episode 76 in the bag. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you had a great 2025. Let's march forward into 2026 with a purpose to support real great country music in the UK and internationally. Let's do it. Alex Connolly, Susanna Clegg, March 18th at the Swinging Arm in Birkenhead and Wirral. I brought out a live album. It's called Breaking Strings. It's going to be on Spotify at the end of January. It's already on Bandcamp for those real ones who really want to support music. Make sure you do support Bandcamp and the artists on there. That's one of the best ways to actually help. But in the meantime, let's keep it supportive. Let's keep it positive. Let's keep it rogue. Cheers.